When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. 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 I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings, this is Kotobukijake coming to you solo today to review the film Neotpravlenoye Pismo. I hope I got that right, my Russian's rusty. It is a film called Letter Never Sent. And this is the second in my series of films where I will be looking at the Criterion films that are in my collection. If you've been watching our videos, and I hope you have, you know from our recent pickups that I've picked up a pretty fair number of Criterion films recently, many of them from single vendor on eBay, and this was one of them. And I wanted to prioritize watching some of those because I really like to watch used stuff before I leave feedback. And I really like to leave feedback, even though I very rarely get it reciprocated. People are not very good in general at doing that, but I like to do it. But I like to really look at the product first, you know. So for this series, as you, if you watched the previous one on the lore, I explained what I'm going for here. I want to do a full product review. Criterion is well known for their pretty awesome assortment of bonus features. That's really one of the reasons why I like collecting it so much is, well, the bonus features are generally pretty awesome. Unfortunately, Letter Never Sent didn't get that memo. Guess the letter never sent was the memo of, hey, you need to put some bonus features on here.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
And we'll get to that in a bit, but that's one of the reasons I earmarked this to be the first one. But basically, this is a Soviet film from 1960. It says on the back 1959. Every other source I've looked at says 1960. Usually Criterion's good about getting that date right, so I'm sure they had a reason for it. It's black and white, Russian language film. I don't know if I said in my intro, it's by the director Mikhail Kalatozov, who is well known to art house audiences the world over, and relatively well known, at least to American audiences, in part for his previous film, 1957's The Cranes Are Flying, which I want to say was an Oscar winner, or an Oscar nominee. I could be getting that wrong.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Oh, I am enjoying this scene.
Get on with it!
But I do know that I have heard of the film myself long before I saw this. In typical Criterion fashion, it does come with a pretty nice little essay here in the booklet. And it does have, you know, your important cast and crew information in said booklet. You know, there's a little bit of it right there. Let me see something about the transfer here. Okay, they didn't really say anything. One reason I wanted to look at the transfer is one notable thing about this film is that while The Cranes Are Flying and its follow-up, I think it's called My Cuba, or Letter Never Sent's follow-up, My Cuba, which were, all three of them were with cinematographer Sergei Rozevsky, and we'll get to that in a bit. But whereas those two films are very well known among art house audiences, and Kalatozov was a pretty well-known name here, again, at least in certain crowds. Apparently, Letter Never Sent was largely lost. And Francis Ford Coppola got a hold of a print in the mid-90s and apparently proctored a restoration project. And he, from what I've heard and read, he apparently was sort of the custodian for the one American copy of the film. Why he did not help get the film into general release here, I don't know. He apparently had a print. He screened it yearly at one of his local, maybe a local theater that he has a tie to or something. I do know that Coppola is really big into film restoration and preservation.
It will be mine. Oh, yes. It will be mine.
His Zoetrope Studios is involved in a lot of these kind of projects, and so very cool that he did that, but the film remained largely unknown until Criterion decided to release it. I do believe this is the first American release from little information I've been able to find out. And it is, for a film where people rave about the cinematography, the fact that it is very nicely cleaned up works very much in its favor. But this is where we'll get to the bonus feature mention. New high-definition digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack. New English subtitle translation. Plus a booklet featuring an essay by film scholar Dina Yordanova. That's it.
You know what really grinds my gears?
That's freaking it. This is a Criterion release, and that's it. Not only that, it's a film from 1960. It's not like there was no time for stuff to arrive that, I mean, an interview with Coppola would have been an awesome addition for this. But no, it's like a total bare bones release. So I'll just go ahead and say, as a Criterion release, this one fails. As a release overall, though, it is gorgeous. For a film from this age, they really did clean it up. This definitely qualifies as a worthwhile Blu-ray to have in the collection. But then let's get to the movie itself. I'm going to be, we'll do the basic synopsis. The film is a very small cast, essentially 5 people, a handful of extras, mainly at the end of the film. And you've got a team of 4 geologists, or geologists/explorers, who are traipsing around in the Siberian taiga looking for a diamond vein. Apparently, some geologists have claimed that that geologically, Siberia should be almost identical to South Africa. So why don't we have diamonds?
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
And of course the Soviets would love to have their own major diamond vein. Who wouldn't? Or at least according to typical viewpoints, who wouldn't want that? But the taiga is a very different place. Geologically it may be similar, but ecologically it's a little different. And there's a lot of other stuff going on too. But basically you've got these 4 people. Sabinin, who's played by Inokente Smoltunovsky. Tanya, who's played by Titania Samoilova. Andrei, who's played by Vasily Livanov. And Sergei, who's played by Yevgeny Urbansky. Sabinin is basically the expedition leader. Sergei, I guess, is sort of their expert explorer, I guess would be the way. I know he has a better title than that, but that's kind of the impression I got. Tanya and Andrei are a couple, and they are geologists, and they are the nerds of the outfit. Nerds! That's probably not the best way to say it, but they are the ones who are they're the ones who can definitely identify the strata, the stones that are found, etc., etc. The title refers to letters that Sabinin writes in his downtime, which he doesn't really necessarily intend to send. He just kind of writes them almost as a diary to his wife Vera, who is played by Galina Kojakina. And Vera doesn't actually show up in the film in terms of the actual chronology of the film. She shows up in Sabinin's memory and later on in some, you could say, visions that he has. A very small role, no doubt about it. And another letter surfaces, though. Sergei has the hots for Tanya. He knows she's taken, but he puts his feelings down in a letter, which of course is discovered. And that leads to it actually was a very interesting conversation between Sergei and Andrei. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. And at one point, though, a forest fire gets underway. And then the film pivots from sort of a man versus nature, where man is the dominant force who's there to find the diamonds and show who's boss, to a straight-up survival film where nature is pissed and fighting back.
And now for something completely different.
I guess that's a good way as any to put it. And if you put it that way, it increases my interest in the film. Because I'm going to be honest, a film about people prospecting for diamonds where they are nominally the heroes of the film, no. No, you lost me at prospecting for diamonds. I have no interest in that. But the idea of them then having to find their way out of this wilderness where their own hubris has put them in dire straits, that's more interesting to me. And so the film does, but my mind did wander. And there were a couple times where I was kind of caught off guard with the start of the fire. I was kind of like, wait, what happened?
What happened?
I hate to admit, my mind was wandering and I missed a couple things. And maybe I need to see the film again, but I'm really not in a hurry to. But it was pretty well directed by Kalatozov. The thing that people rave about, the thing that everyone comes back to, that everyone seemed to say, well, this film is the cinematography. The cinematography, for the most part, is pretty awesome. It's very well done. They made use of handheld camera way back before that was the fashion. They made very nice use of scenic shots. A lot of the shoots were on location. Some of them were in a studio. For the most part, the location shots were the more impressive of the shots, and some of them were impressive. And you get, even in black and white, you get in a feel for the beauty of that landscape and the kind of harsh, kind of frightening beauty at times. But you do get a feel for it. And speaking of beauty, Tanya was definitely quite attractive. You can see why there were guys fighting over her. And again, they did such a good job with the cleanup. They really did. It does not look like it's an old film, which is very much in its favor. Now, one thing I'll say about the cinematography is they do, particularly later where Sabinin is starting to do sort of a two-step with consciousness, if you will, and he starts fading. And he has all these visions that, that's kind of the best way to put it, I guess. As he's having these visions, they start doing a trick with the camera that threw me right out of the film, which is they were doing a lot of superimposed images. They were doing image on top of image. And I'm going to be honest, that has to be done really well, or I just don't care for it. As a film technique, it throws me right out of the film unless it's done well. And I won't say it was done poorly here, but it just did not grab me. And there might be some people who said, oh, that was great, that was awesome. And I was like, eh. But other than that, I honestly don't recall strongly the music. I feel like there was music and it was well used, but it did not leave as strong of an impression as it might have. The music is by Nikolai Kryukov. I really am better than this at Russian. I don't know why I'm having trouble today. Kryukov. Music by... I do remember it being good. I don't remember it being earth-shattering. Similarly, the screenplay, the credited screenwriters are Grigory Koltunov, Valery Osipov, and Viktor Rozov. And there were some really good moments of dialogue. It is a very introspective film. Again, that conversation between Sergei and Andrei had some really good moments to it. Sabinin had some nice observations to make in his letters and just in general. It was well written. And that's really all I have to say about it. This is going to be a short video. Admittedly, some of the longer video ones with lots of bonus features are going to take longer because, you know, you got to go through the bonus features. This one had none. Criterion phoned it in on that one. But it's overall, I kind of liked the film. I was intrigued by it to a degree.
A foreign film. Oh, the evening is saved. I like French films, pretentious, boring French films. I like French films. 3 tickets, s'il vous plaît. Ow.
But it was slow. It did get a little tedious, and again, I had trouble rooting for people who were hunting for diamonds.
I don't know what they have to say. It makes no difference anyway. Whatever it is, I'm against it. No matter what it is or who commenced it, I'm against it.
I didn't get into the how depressing it gets. Let's just leave it at that so that if you watch it, you can not have too much of a spoiler effect. But suffice it to say, by the time it was over, I was more than willing to do something else for a while. I have seen a handful of Russian films, and the recent film Leviathan was incredibly dull and tedious, but admittedly I had high hopes for that one. I do not hold with the people that say Battleship Potemkin's one of the all-time greats. I do not. But I loved their remake of 12 Angry Men, which is simply called 12. I thought that was really good. Not as good as the original, because the original is awesome. I feel like I've had a handful of other Russian films. There have not been many I've gotten to see. This one probably would rate around the middle. You know, it's well done, beautifully shot. I will concede that for the most part the cinematography is pretty awesome. Well done, reasonably well acted. Overall, worth the look, but not one that I am likely to see again anytime soon. Definitely not one that I would have rushed to get had I seen it first. I ended up getting it mainly because I got a hell of a deal on it. But also, I'm trying to get as many Criterion as I can. I would say, as a movie, I'd probably give it a 7. As a Criterion release, 6 at best, probably 5. I'm going to start doing that. I should have done that on my first video, and I'll go ahead and say for the lore, I'd probably give it about an 8 as a film and probably about a 7 as a Criterion release, because it didn't have a lot of bonus features, but the ones it had were, some of them were pretty good. I like bonus films. I love that as a bonus feature, even though one of them bored me to tears. I like bonus films, and and that documentary was extremely informative about the film. This one, just a simple short documentary with Coppola would have been so great.
I don't want to go on a rant here, but America's foreign policy makes about as much sense as Beowulf having sex with Robert Fulton at the First Battle of Antietam. I mean, when a neoconservative defenestrates, it's like Raskolnikov filibuster deoxymonohydroxynate.
The hell does rant mean?
And also, I think this director has done some short films. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I already did. A couple of those. Whatever. Not to get, too hung up on that. But as per usual, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. I am not sure when I'm actually going to get it posted because I have some minor editing to do. I can only edit these sporadically, but hopefully I'll have 2 or 3 of them ready to go next time I get a chance to. And hopefully I'll have some really exciting, well, I will have some really exciting ones coming up. Got a lot of Criterion to work with. So, as per usual, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and tune in if you have not already. By the time this has been posted, it'll be old hat. But Septim and I put together a list of the 15 items most in need of a Criterion release. It's a little bit of a behemoth, but I will say I think it's worth the watch. We had a lot of fun with that. For all of our critiques of it, we love the Criterion Collection, and we are both pretty avid collectors.
Shut up and take my money!
And, so, like I said, if you somehow missed that video, find it and watch it. And I hope you have a good time. Happy viewing. Bye.
Goodbye.